Hello my felting friends, welcome back to this week's video. This week's video is a puffin and it was suggested by Elsa Jenkins, one of my subscribers. Thank you very much, Elsa. It was a good idea. It caused me all sorts of hassle trying to it caused me all sorts of problems trying to do it, but I've done my very best for you. It's the first bird I've ever actually really done, so we'll see how it goes. So anyway, we'll carry on with what it's all about. So this in the background here is just the sea. This is a representation. The puffin's on top of a cliff and we're kind of looking off the edge of the cliff down onto the sea. So I've just mixed some varying blues, so I'm going to have some lights and darks, and I'm putting it down, but I'm not putting it in any particular line because I want it to have some movement, so that it looks like waves moving around, and so I've put it in all different directions. But we've got light blues and dark blues here. And now I'm just doing basically the cliff. So I'm just putting a green on all over, and then I will go back and add some bits and pieces to it in a minute. This was actually fairly simple, but I got the background and the grass and the rocks done in about an hour and a half, and then it took me about 5 hours to do the puffin. So and I'm not sure that I actually really got the puffin in the end, but it looks like a puffin, so I'm very happy, and I did give it a go. So if anybody else has any suggestions, pop them in the comments, and if I can do it, I'll have a go for you. But I make no promises. So anyway, so we've got the base, we've got all the different coloured blues, and then I've got the green, and I'm just building up a rocky part for the puffin to sit on. It can be any kind of shape you want, but I'm just adding some lights and darks and some black cracky bits in the rocks. The drawing is in the description box below. It's free if you want it. My suggestion is you have the drawing if you want it, but you definitely need a reference picture as well, because their beaks and things are quite something to do. So I had my drawing, and then I went off onto Google and I found some reference pictures as well, because they're a weird shape, these birds. Very nice though. We have some near us. There's a big like sanctuary cliff area with lots of puffins and things where I live, but I've still yet to go and find them, but I will go and have a look at some point. So as you can see, all I've done is build some rock shapes. It's just very rough, just some greys, and then I've added some black lines for the cracks because it's quite bright, so the shadows of the rocks would be quite heavy. And that's all. I'm just building rocky shapes really. I will go back at the end and lighten up the rocks on the top some more, because it was supposed to be a bright day, and I wanted the rocks to reflect a bit more light, but you'll see that at the end anyway. So this is pretty easy, you're just building kind of rock shapes. But I haven't gone in with white on these rocks, it's just light grey or some white with some grey. The other thing I did with this is quite a wide picture at the moment. This is about 7 inches by 8 roughly, and I decided at the end I lopped off an inch off the side, off the right hand side, because I thought the puffin was getting lost in the picture, so I ended up making it a 6 by 8. So I did put some rocks on the right hand side, but they'll disappear. I cut them off. Sorry about the slight wiggle, I'm always hitting the camera. This is all my greens I keep. If you've seen, I have like a box thing above me and I keep all my greens handy, so that's what I'm doing. I'm just pulling down all the different greens. So this is going to make grass. So although I've put the green in the background, I want some grassy strands. So I'm doing my usual, I've just mixed them all together. I'm just chopping them down a bit, and then I'm going to put the grass on the green area, but I'm going to have it so it pokes above the straight line of the cliff. So I want the grass to look like it's growing up and off the edge. And because I've mixed the strands together, it looks quite natural. It's nice because you get lots of different colours. If you hear any weird noises, my dog is sitting on my lap while I'm doing the voiceover, so he keeps yawning and things. So I'm just building the grass up all over really. And it's nice to vary it a bit. I have some, as you can see, I have some lighter bits and some darker bits. So I looked up some puffin facts for you while we're doing this, and the puffin's nickname is a sea parrot. What else have we got? They typically mate for life and return to the same nesting site each year. Instead of building nests, they dig burrows in the ground and often use rabbit holes. That's an interesting one. I like efficiency. So here we've got some, I put some grass between the rocks as well because I wanted to add some colour in amongst the greyness there. So we're just going to keep building this up. What else have we got? A significant portion of the world's puffin population, that's about 60%, actually breed in Iceland. And the rest breed on the cliffs at Flamborough in Yorkshire, I'm sure. Right, so this is just the dark where I want to put, it looks a bit weird now, but actually it's just where the dark of the shady bit is. Right, so I have the puffin picture, which you can download, and I've literally just cut the puffin shape out so that I can put it on, and then I'm going to go round it. I'm doing my usual thing. Where the black areas of the puffin are, I'm going to go round it in black. I'm basically drawing the puffin on really. So I'm going to go round the black areas with some black, and I'm going round the whiter areas with, I'm actually using a very pale cream. So you go around the whiter areas with the pale cream and then go round the dark areas with the black. Oh, here's a nice fact for you, I like this one. Baby puffins are called pufflings. What a great name, pufflings. What else is there? They can use their wings for flying and swimming underwater. So that's pretty interesting. Just a few little facts. I do like to be educational, obviously. So this video is a little bit longer as well. I'm taking them up to about 48-50 minutes because people were saying that they preferred them a little longer. So if you're finding them too long, please let me know and I will shorten them back down to half an hour. So obviously this is his beak, so I know that's going to be orange, so I'm actually marking that in orange. I didn't want any outlines that would be difficult to get rid of later. Another nickname for puffins is also clowns of the sea. I'll stop doing the facts now for you. So there we go. So I've marked it in now roughly as in the colours it's going to be, and then what I'm going to do basically is go and block in some of those colours. But I'm not using white because I may want to add highlights later on, and I will save my white because it's the brightest colour I have, and if I need it I'll go back and put it on in a minute. So as I say, all the whiter coloured areas are actually being done in cream, and then I'll go into the shady areas with a grey, which you'll see in a minute. I might suggest that you, like I said, you have a reference picture for puffins up, because their feet are quite interesting as well, and I had to go back and change their feet a little bit because I hadn't quite got the shape that I wanted. Depends how exact you want to be, really. So each area, like I say, I'm just basically blocking it in a base colour so that I know what's orange, what's black, what's white, that kind of thing. But we will go and add shading and things like that over it as well in a minute. And towards the end of the video there are some closer shots of this picture as well. I was having trouble with my cameras. I finally worked out what was wrong with it, so that I couldn't get, when I started it I couldn't get the video any closer in, but you'll see at the end I managed to sort it out with the help of Google, and so you can have some closer pictures now. Now I actually didn't block in the wing because I want to do the wing last. As far as the body goes, I wanted to get all the background body of the wing of the puffin done first, and then I'll go back over and do the wing in a minute. So like I say, to start with I'm blocking all this in cream. I was thinking of adding another puffin to the picture, but honestly this one took me so long I thought I'll never get it finished at this rate, because I needed to get all the shading right and things, so that's why we ended up with just the one puffin. But when you're drawing them and doing this sort of thing with them, you really find out all about what makes their shapes up. It was fascinating. Their eyes were a really interesting shape, and when I got in close to look at the eye, the way it's made with the black and the red and things is fascinating. They have a lot of really, really interesting shapes to them. So I can't really talk you through the specific colours and things of this, because there's so many little subtle bits I had to keep adding to try and get the shading and the colour right, that, as I say, it's better off if you'd like to do this picture, then you really need a reference picture for you. Anything I can tell you about I will do so, but it was so many subtle layers of things. But you will see a close-up, as I say, near the end, and you'll get a better idea of how it's done then. Because this little bit here, this was a fascinating this dark bit, because it's like a curved teardrop. Because when I first looked at it, I thought it was just going to be like almost like a half moon on his beak, but it wasn't at all. It was much more like a curved teardrop, as I say. And this is where I'm doing my best to get the sort of shading and light reflecting off the black feathers. So it looks quite bright, but I think it looks okay in the end, because what I've done is I've got the black, obviously with the base colour, and then I've gone over it with some sort of light grey. But it's just thin, it just kind of makes it look shaded, or highlighted, sorry. But certainly from the aspect of learning about the shapes that make up a puffin, this was a really fascinating picture to do. I was just having more of a, not an issue, but a thing about trying to get all the shading for it, because again, I do a lot of things in greens and stuff, so anything like this is almost like new to me, not as a painter, but as someone who uses wool, because trying to get the right colours with wool and the shading aspect and making it look nice is quite difficult, or it can be. But for me, this is another one of, you just, every time you try something new, you learn new techniques and new things. So it's good for me to come outside my comfort zone and try new things. So I do recommend it. Right, so I wanted to make sure his eye was in the right place, which is why I've put the pin in, and then I'm basically going in and marking where the pin came out there. So I know that that's the top of his eye. Which again is, like I say, it starts off at the top as a triangle, and then it bends slightly backwards into a square shape. And then in the square part of it is where you have the red, and because it's got like the black interesting shape there, and it has a square red part inside, and then the bird's eyeball is round and inside the kind of orangey red square. But I would never have known that had I not had a time to have a close look at puffins. And I do go back, I start the eye here, but I do go back nearer the end of the picture and just adjust it slightly. Because I wasn't paying enough attention, and initially, this is why, use your reference picture. I just assumed that the red part of the puffin's eye was his eyeball, which was wrong. So I had to go back in later on and just alter that slightly. But you'll see that. So what I'm putting here is just some grey shading. Now this line here, I don't show it on the actual video because it's another one where I pinned it up and looked at it and decided I needed to change it slightly, but that line I showed you just now, I go in and I darken that down a bit because it did look a little too much like I'd drawn a circle around his face. But you'll see as we go along, and then, as I say, you won't see it in the thing, but it's still there, I just darkened it down a touch. It's this line here that I'm putting on. It's a bit too bright. Like I say, I go back in later and I will darken it down. Not to black or anything, just a darker grey. Now because the light's shining off his dark feathers, I wanted to show that, so I've actually used a blue. Now this is actually white because supposedly where the sun is shining it's catching the top of his chest here, and this bit's going to be much brighter than the rest of the bird's body, which is why I'd done the rest in cream rather than the white to start with. But the colouring and shading on your puffin, if you're using a reference picture, will be different from mine. So if you just use the colours ideas that I'm giving you rather than actually where I'm putting my shading. So this is more of a grey, just pale as you can see, and I'm just running it down the body as the way the feathers would go. And on this part of the body it went down his body and then it curved down his leg. So if you watch as I do it, I take it down there and then I literally curve it onto his leg. So you can start to see where I'm putting the grey, I've got that kind of line above where the white is. And then I treated his tail area completely separate from the leg because the leg doesn't blend in with the body. And my puffin had some light catching the back of his body here, which is what this grey is representing. The way the feathers went on the back and the light caught it, it curved around, so just on that bit. So I'll add a bit more to it and make it look almost like a circular, well, half circle really. I say anything you can't see up close at the moment, don't worry, because when I get to the end, the last bit I managed to sort my camera like I say, and you can have more close-up shots of it. As you can see, I still haven't done that wing yet. I'm working all the way around and I'll come back to the wing last. I'm just working on where the shadows fall here. Because they have quite dark feathers at the line between the legs and the orange part of the legs and the whiter part. See all the little bits I'm working with there. So I'm using a dark grey blue to do this line down his chest. Now this line isn't a part of the puffin, but this is the shadow that his beak is causing. And I'll blend the bottom of that in a minute because I want to darken down some of this as well. Because there's quite a pronounced brightness to that part of his chest, and I wasn't getting that. So I needed to darken down the under part of his body more. And this bit here is just a touch of the original cream I did for his body, and I'm taking a little bit of it, just a touch, to warm up just that area. And that's going back over the grey. So now I've just begun to start on the wing. So that lighter bit is where the light's catching it, and then I'm going to block in some quite dark parts here, and then I will work on adding some feather shapes, but they're really subtle, so from this angle at the moment you may not see them, but you will get to see them in a bit. So now I'm basically starting to outline that wing. The parts I'm doing now are the same blue that I did that bit of shadow on his neck, and I'm just sort of almost like drawing in feather shapes. But I say that they're quite subtle, so you see them close up. And then this is all about me trying to get the look of the light catching the dark feathers and things. Because these kind of sweep round to his back. So the point that I'm going towards now is his wing, so it's almost like it's wrapped around his back a bit. I'm still working on darkening down some of the chest here and that. But I'm trying to feather it as well at the top. I want it to look a little feather-like because they have very, very fine feathers on their chest. And then this lighter colour is outlining the feathers on the tips of his wings. It's really just where the light is actually catching the dark feather. And I'm just doing my best to show feather shapes in there as well. So this again is some of the light catching his wing. And on this bit you can see the lighter bit I'm covering, and this is just some thin grey that I'm putting down because I wanted to darken that down, and it was a little bit like feathers coming over his wing from the back, so I wanted to soften it down and give it a little bit of feathery softness there. And then we have the shading that the wing's causing on his back. And I'm outlining a lot of him in a very pale blue because that's how it looked to me where the light was catching it. And this bit down here, the blue I did the shadow on his neck, or where the light's catching it, is what I'm running down the sides of the white. So hopefully you can see a little better now the bits and pieces on him. So I put in the base orangey colour on his feet, and now I'm going back in with a much darker kind of orangey brown to do some shadow, and then I will go over with some cream at the end to lighten up the light areas, because I don't want his little feet to be quite this orange. And I need more of a contrast. And I didn't think these rocks here were quite bright enough based on the fact that his chest was so bright. So I've gone back over and added some, this is almost white on these rocks. I just want them to really, really stand out and be bright. Just the tops, and not of all of it, just the front bit there. It's much closer in now, so you can sort of see what I've done on the bird's body a bit better. And now with some very, very fine strands, I'm putting in the shadow under his feet. And this is that lighter creamy orange I've got now. Because I think otherwise the feet would have just been too orange really. And I noticed he had some feathers that came out from behind his wing and wrapped around the front of his wing there. Some whiter ones, so that's what that is. It's much closer. You can see his eye now. It's got that, whereas I say what I thought was the red part was his eyeball, and it's not. So I will go back into that in a minute, you'll see that, and I will change that slightly. And as I say, that whitish line that runs under his face, I do darken that down quite a lot, but unfortunately I don't have the pictures on here to show you that. You see what I mean about that shape? It's like a curved teardrop. Right, so I wanted to change his eye, so I've got the little triangle bit at the top, and then this orangey bit is actually square shaped, but it slants slightly towards the back of his head. So that's what I've just gone over the eye I did originally and put in this kind of square, and then it's just got a blob in the middle. It's kind of a darkish brown for his eye, and then this black bar that comes underneath the square. And that little line comes from that line that goes under his eye. So I moved that down a bit. And then we need a tiny white dot in his eye. And there we go. That's the Puffin best I could do. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to give me a like. And you may enjoy one of the videos on the screen now. If so, I'll see you there. If not, I will see you next week for the video. Don't know what it's going to be yet, but we'll all find out together. So thank you very much for joining me. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.